Good morning, Salem folks, and whoever else is joining with me this morning. Mark chapter 14 today, and a lot of interesting stuff. Excuse me, let me arrange my camera a little differently. A lot of interesting stuff, a lot of detail as far as Jesus's last couple days as a living human, just before his crucifixion, and just a lot of jumps from story to story that Mark has done over and over. Pretty straightforward stuff. Being anointed at Bethany with some very costly perfume. Jesus foretells his death and burial, and forewarning that one of the disciples will be the one he dips his bread in, and this foretelling, when he says to you in verse 26 and 27, after they'd sung a hymn, they went out to the Mount of Olives. Jesus said to them, "You will all fall away." And Peter, in typical Peter fashion, says, "I will not." And he says, "Truly I tell you, this very night before the rooster crows, twice you will deny me 3 times. But he says emphatically, "If I must die with you, I will not deny you." And they all say the same. But this brashness of Peter is truly my favorite disciple. He's just so real, so honest, so hot, and yet at times very, very cold. And I really appreciate that about him. And they go and pray in Gethsemane. Jesus takes Peter, James, and John, and they have trouble staying awake. And 3 times Jesus comes back to them and says, how are you asleep? Could you not watch with me for 1 hour? And I just find this sad, because I know I'm really truly no different. The times I've fallen asleep in prayer, or thinking about prayer, or and could you not watch with me for 1 hour? And I think, so many times I cannot and do not. So you cannot get up with me 20 minutes earlier to make sure you spent time with me. Here it is 11 in the afternoon, 11 o'clock in the morning, and it's the first I've looked at scripture. I mean, I did a little bit before. I had a prayer group that met at 9:30. I did a little bit, at 9 something, but you could not get up early enough to make sure this was done. And I think, Matt, And then this interesting 51 and 52, this section that is inserted. A young man followed him with nothing but a linen cloth about his body, and they seized him, but he left the linen cloth and ran away naked. And I read that and I think, what is this even in here for? And I've consulted a couple commentaries. Nobody really knows for sure who this is and what it's there for. It is most commonly held that it is Mark who is there. And I think it's his way of putting himself in the story, that, he was probably back at the upper room when Jesus gets arrested. Somebody comes back and tells them, so he immediately runs, and he's making it public that, hey, I went to help and do what I could. It wasn't me standing back and denying. It was me going in search of and finding Jesus. But we don't know that. That is just pure speculation. But in all likelihood, it is Mark who is doing that. And, we see John several times, and we'll talk about that when we get to John, putting himself in the story, especially referring to himself as, and the one who Jesus loved as being himself. And then the story of Peter denying Jesus. Jesus is before the council, and their testimony is not conclusive by any stretch that Jesus should be certainly crucified. Jesus remained silent, and the high priest finally says, "Are you the Christ, the Son of the Blessed?" And Jesus said, "I am," which leads to his crucifixion. And then Peter's denial, and it says upon the rooster crowing, Peter remembered how Jesus had said to him, "Before the rooster crows twice, you will deny me 3 times." And he broke down and wept, and I think the Matthew version of this story said he wept bitterly. And I can't imagine the heartache that Peter had in his denial of Jesus, denial of being part of Jesus. And I totally get it, and it makes me sad, because I can just only imagine the times I have denied Jesus. And maybe it's not overtly people saying, "Hey, you're that follower of Jesus," but it's denying times when I could step in and give a message of hope, maybe step in and point somebody towards the good news of Jesus. So I realize in this instance I am no different than Peter. And that does kind of make me sad. But thankfully we live in a God, and we will see Peter restored to ministry as we look ahead to the future. And that is that we do indeed worship and love a God of second and third and fourth chances. And I think that is absolutely awesome. So tomorrow we're in Mark 15, and we'll see the death of Jesus, and 16, the resurrection of Jesus. So we're quickly coming to an end of Mark, and I pray that it's been a beneficial thing for us to read together. So have a great day, and we'll see you on here tomorrow. Stay warm. It's terribly cold out there, so stay warm and stay safe.